Yeah, we're going to talk about this album because she's really big and probably doing this review might get me some numbers on my channel. I'm not going to lie. I'm milking it. Oh, yeah. But also, I'm curious to check out stuff that, I usually don't check out. And she's a big megastar. So let's do it. What's up, everyone? It's your boy, Matt Diazable. If you're new here, I do music reviews. If you found me, thank you. If you like what you're seeing, subscribe, comment, please. It's cool if you did. Yeah, so today I'm checking out the latest release from Taylor Swift called The Life of a Showgirl. Miss T Swift doesn't need an introduction. She's one of the biggest pop stars, musicians in the world in the past couple years. That's a given and everything. What probably needs more of an introduction is I did a review of her last album, The Tortured Poet Society, last year. I'll put that in the link down below. And that was my first time really listening to a Taylor Swift album full on and just going through the whole thing. I've never really been much, like, I guess, interested in her music. Me, I'm into metal and other stuff, but I want to expand my palette. So I checked out that album and I remember it was like an all right album. It was a little long, but overall it was enjoyable here and there. And this newest album, The Life of a Showgirl, I feel like, it has some better moments. It has some weaker moments. It's a very opposite contrast. I feel like the Poets the Poet Society, that album was a little bit slower, a little bit more, sadder overall, the Tortured Poet Society. But this one's a little bit more lively, a little bit more energetic. And one thing for sure, it is shorter. It's only 12 tracks long, but it does breeze by pretty easily. So that's one thing that I really enjoyed about this album. So let's talk more about this album. Oh, yeah. And this latest release from Taylor is a bold, dreamy, sometimes kind of messy exploration of, fame, love, and self-reflection. The theme of her being a very big pop star and big showgirl is a very consistent thing that you get on this album. And that's very evident in the very first song, The Fate of Ophelia, where the album kind of kicks off with a very soft and cinematic feel to it, with very delicate pianos being played and some really airy and breathy vocals that I could not shake it, but she sounded just like, Lana Del Rey at times and sometimes Sabrina Carpenter. She was really, I don't want to say stealing from her contemporaries or her, her fellow artists, but you can't help it. When you're listening to the song, there's definitely going to be a comparison. Even with all those comparisons here, the dynamic vocal layering and the explosive chords really makes it really clear that Taylor still knows how to be very captivating with her musical presentation. And then on the next track, Elizabeth Taylor, she's delivering a bit of a huskier, more introspective homage that feels both, refreshing and quite confident at the same time. Balancing the whole, Hollywood glamour lifestyle with a touch of melancholy. I gotta say, the chorus on this song, it hooks you in really good with its very big and bold sound. While the opening songs have a little bit more of a slower, more booming sound to it, you have tracks like Ophelia and Ruin the Friendship that bring a little bit more of a playful energy because they have more of a upbeat tempo that has some really catchy choruses that kind of linger long after you've listened to the songs. Though I will say on some of the tracks, it seems like her lyrics are not the best. They seem like she's trying too hard to be very hip and hop with random pop culture references throughout her whole album. But, they're not the worst lyrics ever, but they're not that strong either. There's a few times on this album where Taylor seems to be trying some experimental terms of like sounds and, song structures, particularly with the song Father Figure and the song Cancelled, because they dive into almost like darker, more provocative territory here. Father Figure has this like weird perspective where she's like talking to somebody who is her like apprentice or someone she's trying to train in a way. It's kind of weirdly like trying to be protective in a weird way, but kind of showcasing her life in a way. It's a very, very, I won't say complicated, but you have to really listen to the lyrics to understand the overall scope of that song. So very interesting of her to go with that route of storytelling. Then on the song Cancelled, it literally has a darker sound to it with some really deep bass lines, some kind of almost grunge-like inspired guitars, and very breathy vocals that just flourish and feel very bold, but a bit polarizing at times. And then on the other end of things, she's trying to be a little bit more, I guess, happy and go lucky with the songs Wish List and Honey, offering some sweetness and vulnerability, reflecting on, love, the future, and just people she wants to keep around to keep her very grounded. Though with these particular tracks, her vocal choices seem a little bit, I guess, strained a bit, and the overall structures and beats of the songs are a bit on the simple and kind of bland side. And then you have tracks like Eldest Daughter that show a little bit of a lyrical maturity from her, blending soft pianos with sharp introspective commentary about fame and just the digital age in general. It's a very nice and touching song. And then you have the song Wood that brings a funky, danceable energy to everything that also highlights her range and her charisma, even if the chorus does feel a little bit stiff at times. And then you have the closing song, The Life of a Showgirl, featuring Sabrina Carpenter herself, and it feels like a good closer to the album, / it kind of summarizes the whole album very nicely. It's a very glamorous and very larger than life, song about, the highs and lows of being famous, which it's a little bit of a mixed bag because she's a very famous person or very well-off person before she became who she is now. But it is also kind of interesting just to her talking about, it's not easy being a showgirl, having all that money, doing all the things she does, the big tour she does. You have to give her some respect that it takes a lot of time, effort, people, and she pulls it off very nicely and seems to be very, not humble, but at least respectful to her crew and everything. So it's a give and take because she's being respectful to those who are making her life better, but also she's always had a pretty easy life. So it's a nice song with a lot of confidence and a sense of fun to it. So overall, I would say this is a very well-paced album that is quite ambitious. And I gotta say, the pacing is very key here because compared to her last album, where it felt like there's a lot of like filler, a lot of like just running, like it wasn't a bad album, just a lot of things just ran a little bit long. This album feels a little bit tighter, and in 12 tracks, 40 minutes just really breeze on by. It flies by nicely. It does occasionally lean into, familiar, like quirky vocal choices. Like I said, she sounded a little bit too much like Lana Del Rey, Sabrina Carpenter at times, where I wouldn't say it's stealing, but it's just really spot on. But she has her own style at times, even her own like interesting flow of singing at times that's, clearly very tailored. But the emotional honesty here, the catchy hooks, and the overall adventurous moments really make this a very compelling listen. I haven't listened to a lot of Taylor's older stuff, but from what I've heard from people and from reviewers, she's always talking about relationships, her personal struggles. This time around, she's still talking about those personal struggles and the highlights and the lowlights of being a celebrity. But also there's a little bit of like, she's moving past just, personal struggles and relationships and just talking more about her future, which I feel like she doesn't talk about that much in her music. So overall, I would say this new music she's making here is going to keep listeners quite engaged from start to finish because there's a little bit of difference in what she's been writing before on this album. So at the end of the day, it's a very dreamy, bold, and playful journey through her highs and lows of her personal life and her like celebrity life that, it has a few rough moments here and there, but those rough moments kind of make it really nice and almost very human-like. And you kind of forget how big of a star she is, that she's a human at the end of the day. And I'd say she did a pretty all right job with this. There's a few tracks on here that I would probably listen a couple times over. Very well-paced, very cohesive album. So this latest album from Taylor Swift, The Life of a Showgirl, I'd have to give it a nice and decent 7.5 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me what you think about this album. What's your favorite Taylor Swift album? Should I check out more Taylor Swift stuff or older stuff? Let me know down below. Until next time, guys, see you in the pig.